We're a partnership between the Arts Council of Wales and the British Council, and we encounter problems in terms of how we apply for any sort of, whether it's funding or whether it's actually putting programmes in place on the ground in Wales. What I've come across is a serious lack of understanding back on the ground in terms of what is out there and how we can get involved, and people have actually decided, well, we're not going to bother because it's too complicated and we don't know how to get around it. I don't think it's because there's not an interest, it's actually the knowing how to do it. So it's actually the how do we get involved, how can we actually be part of what's going on. A lot of the stuff that's going on that has been spoken about are going on totally independently from a sort of a sub-member state level even. Culture in the UK is actually devolved, so this is something we've been talking about earlier, and there's also the issue of when there's a discussion going on in terms of what's going on the UK level, there are a whole host of other things that are going on a Welsh level that won't be even known in London, nevertheless in Brussels, and vice versa. So I think the whole political changes that are going on at the moment is making it quite complicated even on the ground for the operators who are directly dealing with their regional governments where the culture resides, and that regional government actually fitting into the rest of what's going on in the European Union. And I'm coming back to this need for understanding what the tools are, because also it's not just from an understanding from my case, from Wales, how we can apply the tools that are there at the moment, and how can we have, for example, the cultural contact points that can facilitate and help us to understand the rest of the programs that could be applied for, but also in terms of understanding the nuances and the cultural connections that exist organically between sub-member states, regions even, or whichever level, and the European Commission acknowledging that sort of identity and those values. And when we talk about something like the structural funds, for example, and the opportunities to link up with trade, it's not just between the DGs of the European Commission that we should be looking at. Even on a Welsh level, there are structural funds that are being used to develop links with China, which we are involved in culturally, but has nothing to do with what's going on the European level. So my challenge to you is to come up with if there is an open method of coordination, how does that accommodate for the different activities that are going on even below a member state level, and how can we make sure that the good practice that's being developed from wherever it is, whether it's Wales or any other part of the European Union, how can we fit into part of it? Because the answers we're getting from the European Commission based in Wales is that we do not fit into these global partnerships. Just to give you one example, organic partnership with Argentina is the only cultural link, linguistic link between Wales and any other part of the world. When we approached the Commission about it, there's government funding going into it, there's British Council funding going into it, Arts Council funding going into it. When we approached the European Commission office, we were told, oh, that's nothing to do with what Europe does, and that we don't fit into any of that. Now, that's, in my mind, a message for the European Union to be sending cultural operators and like ourselves that we can't fit into it.